Hey beauties, welcome back to Real Girl Talk Podcast Radio. I am your host, Sherry Ricard. I'm a medical professional, business leader, author, speaker, and adversity recovery expert, bringing you fascinating guests, business, beauty, and lifestyle tips to help you create a beautiful life, and always committed to keeping it real. Now let's dive in. Hello beauties, welcome back to Real Girl Talk Podcast Radio. Thank you for joining me today. How many of you are suffering from election anxiety? I think everyone in the country is, right? I mean, this is going to be an adversity for half the country because somebody's got to win and somebody's going to lose. And 50% of Americans, millions and millions of people, are going to feel like when their candidate loses, it is a catastrophic event. So we're going to talk a little bit today about overcoming adversity and hard times. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about how to move past the election results, because ultimately you're going to have to, right? If your candidate loses, you're going to have to figure out a way to move past it. I know right now we're juggling whether, we have some cheating going on and there's a lot of adversity with how the voting took place. And listen, it's all going to work out at the end. Maybe Trump fights to the end. Maybe Biden fights to the end. But basically, we all want a fair election. We want all the legal votes to count. Ultimately, that's what's going to happen. Right? So we're going to overcome this. It's not going to be the end of civilization. But, I was thinking about doing this podcast today only because the election made me think a lot about the adversity that we've been going through in society, in our life, in our community, with our family for basically almost the entire 2020. So what better time to talk about adversity recovery, because we're all in adversities right now. There are millions out of work. There are relationships that have broken up. There are people that have died of COVID and other diseases. There are people that have died of other events. We have relationships that have broken up. Let's face it. We have friendships that have broken up over this election. We are a split country. And so we are in the midst of adversity. Everyone is touched by some type of adversity. So let's talk about overcoming. Let's talk about the resolution. There's one thing I've always said is somebody that goes around complaining without any resolution to what they're complaining about just wants to hear themselves talk. Because you have to have some type of recovery. You have to have some type of resolution, the end of the disaster. So are you ready? Are you ready to overcome an adversity in your life? I mean, hard times don't have to last forever. When life knocks you down, what do? Do you dust yourself off and keep moving forward, or do you curl up in a ball and just give up? Adversity takes many forms and affects each person differently. We all know that. You may be facing a tragic loss by death. You may be facing a divorce, or you're just divorced. Your business may be struggling. You may have lost your business, or you may have lost your job or lost friends in this political battle that we're debating right now. What matters most is how you choose to react when adversity strikes. If you want to master your life, you need to learn how to overcome adversity and work through hard times. So how do I know? Because I have been faced with some really big challenges in my life that have tested my strength. You know by now, if you follow me or listen weekly to my podcast, that I lost my son Bryant at the age of 17 in a car accident. You may not know that I have been in financial ruin. I've come back stronger. I've lost my dad. My mom had cancer. Thank God she survived. You may be thinking, okay, she has a sense of adversity right now. But what I do know is all of you have been through similar adversities or something that may be different in what I described, but has affected you the same way that my adversities have affected me. But I was able to make room for some healthy relationships. I gained a greater confidence. I grew stronger in my relationship with God through all of my adversities. And this allows you to explore talents, which is what I did, that I never even knew that I had. And an experience really that had heightened a level of personal fulfillment and joy for me. Now, you may not be able to see it right now, but adversity is actually what makes you a survivor that can thrive. Because in the end, you don't want to just survive, but you want to thrive and thrive through the adversities that you have been faced with. If you've been rejected by someone or something, most often that's a protection from something worse in disguise. It's an opportunity for you to prove yourself and how strong you really are. In the words of Barbara DeAngelis, I love this. We don't develop courage by being happy every day. We develop it by surviving difficult times and challenging adversity. That makes perfect sense to me. So are you ready to learn 9 strategies on how to overcome adversity, challenges, and hard times? Because I'm here to give them to you. If you're in the midst of an adversity and you want to just waller in the adversity that you're in, you probably don't want to hear them. But if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you are wanting to climb out of this pit that you feel like you're in, maybe you're angry right now. Maybe you're still in denial. Maybe you're depressed. You'll have to come to some acceptance in order to be ready to move on to phase 2 of adversity, and that is remaking of your life. And this is where the 9 strategies come into play. So I'm going to lay them out for you. And I know, yes, hard times can be difficult to bear and can leave some emotional scars that are difficult to heal from. But we always have a choice. You don't need to really possess some kind of superhuman strength in order to bounce back from adversity. The secret to learning how to overcome adversity and hard times is basically resilience and faith. If you're listening and you feel your faith is being challenged right now and in these days or this entire year, recognize that that is the enemy of darkness that likes to kick you when you're down. He wants you to stay down. You may be wondering, what is the meaning of resilience? What does it mean to have faith? Resilience is the process of thriving through adversity, trauma, and stress. It's not something that you are necessarily born with, although I do believe some do inherit a bit of a trait of strength, and others just have to fight a little harder. Rather, it's a trait that can be developed over time, and we only need to pray and ask God for it. Faith is complete trust without seeing. So who and what do you put your faith in? Think about that. Who are you putting your faith in? Are you putting it in the government? Are you putting it in your employer? Are you putting it in your spouse or your friend group? Who are you putting your faith in? Because ultimately, if you're not putting your faith in God, that He is guiding your path and He is enabling you to go to higher levels as long as you believe, then you're putting it in the wrong place, because God is the only one that ultimately you should be putting all of your faith in. Sure, we want to get excited and we want to accept our lives as, our spouses as faithful, and we put trust in them. Of course we do. And in our jobs and in our employers. But those things can let you down. God will never let you down. He'll never let you down. He will protect you when you feel like you're being rejected. He will be there for you and guide you every step of the way. But you have to believe that He can do that for you. Okay? And if you don't believe, you could actually be blocking your own blessings. Remember, it's not the events of life that grow us. Actually, it's the meaning that we create from those events. Whether or not you create an empowering or disempowering meaning from hard times in your life is entirely up to you. 2 different people can experience the same event, obviously, but take away an entirely different meaning from the exact experience. You think about that. We could literally be sitting in a conversation, hear the same exact story, and get a completely different perception than our friend did that heard that entire story. The same happens with experiences. But resilient people don't focus on hard times. They don't let that break them. They pray and they pay attention and they embrace the actions that they took in order to get through the difficult times prior. So if you go through something difficult and you learn from that, you actually build up a resistance and a resilience to the next adversity, because we're all going to have many in our life. That's just life. A resilient person wakes up every day and consciously chooses growth and focuses on what they can control and what they can't control. And let's just talk from a scientific viewpoint, okay? Researchers have actually discovered 5 particular areas of growth that often spring from adversity. That's interpersonal relationships, the identification of new possibilities for one's life, personal strength, spirituality, and an appreciation of life. This is actually a phenomenon that is referred to as post-traumatic growth. Each of us has the power to channel our pain into a productive way of living. If you struggle with adversity today, it's a new day to reclaim that power. Claim your power back. Arise and shine is what I like to say. You no longer have to drown in the ocean of despair if that's what you feel like you're doing. Now is the time for you to anchor and ride this storm of life with grace and ease. I want to teach you these 9 strategies that are going to help you overcome adversity and hard times once and for all. So listen to all 9 and what they actually mean, okay? Because some of them can sound a little cliche until you actually listen to each step. Number 1, believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. Easier said than done, right? Don't let anything or anyone make you question your belief in yourself. When adversity hits, it's easy for our self-esteem to take a massive blow, but you need to realize that you're not defined by your challenge. Adversity isn't part of your identity at all. It's an experience or time in your life. That's it. It doesn't identify you. It may change your world to a new normal, but that's okay. It can't change unless you allow it to change. If you can't change something, embrace it. That's the belief in yourself. Trust that you have the ability to take back control of your life right now when everything feels like it's just falling apart. Acknowledge that adversity and difficulty that you're experiencing right now. Know that you will overcome it, and anything that stands in your way of stealing that ability, let that be gone. Put it behind you. Because listen, if you can't change it, you're going to have to embrace it or figure out a way around it. Don't allow your inner critic, and we all have it, always say the worst critic is ourselves. It's what we say inside our 2 ears that rolls around in our head that messes us up a lot of time. Don't let that inner critic rope you into the story that you're not strong enough to get through these tough times that you're in right now. Think back. Okay, so think back of all the times in your life when you rose back from the ashes. And I want you to use those experiences as reminders of how strong you actually are because you embraced them and you worked through them. Think about when God came through for you. Remember those things that God protected you from. He protected you. If you're feeling like you went through a rejection, more than likely it was God's protection. And later on in life, later on down the road, you realize that. So reflect on those challenges and those rejections that he pulled you from. If you're grieving over the loss of a loved one right now, know that God sees every tear. And his word says he will replace those ashes for beauty. I know it hurts. I've been there. I know it hurts. Number 2, in these strategies, I want you to drop that negative self-talk. I call it that stinking thinking. What you think and say about yourself will create outcomes in your life. When adversity occurs, be aware of how you talk to yourself. If you focus primarily on negative aspects of a stressful event, then you will more than likely replay those negative thoughts in your head over and over. That inner critic comes back and will feed off that negativity, and all that does is further diminish your self-esteem. Words are powerful. So resist saying things like, I can't do this, or this is too tough, or this is never going to end. Don't let that story Be your inner thought. Don't let that inner critic tell you over and over and dictate choices that aren't right. Be in control. Be in control. Instead, I want you to focus on language that's empowering, positive, and inspires you to take action and change your life. Proverbs 23:7 tells us, "For a man thinketh, so is he." So negative self-talk is actually biblical. The Bible tells us not to have it. It also tells us what you think of yourself and who you are, so you shall be. So think of yourself at a higher level. Think of yourself the way you want to be, and that's how you'll be. Don't prophesy or manifest what you're saying negative into your life, because ultimately you can do just that. Number 3, practice self-compassion. Let's talk about that. When life knocks you down, showing kindness and compassion towards yourself can actually go a long, long way, even if you don't feel like doing it. And we'll go back scientifically. Studies have even showed that self-compassion is a key piece in people's ability to overcome adversity and hard times and challenges. Let's pull on some research to support that, okay? Kristen Neff is a PhD and pioneer in self-compassion research. And she says self-compassion has 3 components to it. Self-kindness, which means replace harsh self-criticism with kinder, gentler words. Common humanity, which means to acknowledge that suffering and personal failure is a universal experience. And mindfulness, which means to observe your negative emotions without focusing on them or suppressing them. So if your challenge right now is self-inflicted, mistakes are going to happen in life. Forgive yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. If you're dwelling on this negativity, you will never be able to move forward. When you're recovering from setbacks, do you speak to yourself like you do a good friend that is going through hard times? If not, it's time to show yourself some more compassion. We should be talking to ourselves like we do our best friends that are in similar situations or challenges in their own life. You should be treating yourself with just as much compassion as you do others. Number 4, change your response. Whenever adversity looms its ugly face and tries to take you down, how do you respond? Your response is what will determine how fast you're able to move forward from adversity at all. It's not what happens to you that matters. I know you've heard that before. Rather, it's what you choose to do with the negative experience. How do you want to live? Better yet, if your struggle is loss, how would your loved one want you to live? This is what I had to do. I knew Bryant did not want me crying every single day, although I had many. And I will tell you, I still have Bryant days. I've been able to be where I am today because I've been able to know what my why is. And I've been able to look at Bryant in my mind, in my memory, and know that the last thing that he would want for me is to live in a state of depression and despair. Think about what your loved ones would want for you that have passed away. The lesson here is to don't really react a lot of times, but be proactive. Resilient-minded, faith-filled people are always growing and seeking new ways to relearn from their life experiences. When we respond to a negative event in a positive way, positive results will unfold. At the end of the day, life is about choices. We can't always choose what happens to us, but we can choose how we respond. So again, that lesson is don't always react, but be proactive. Take ownership of your problems, and eventually you will find the adversities are just obstacles that you can and will grow through. Number 5, take responsibility for your life. Okay? Let's stop blaming everything on everyone else except for ourselves. It's not easy to take responsibility for our circumstances. I know that, especially when they're out of our control. However, by playing the victim and taking a backseat to your life, you are disempowering yourselves, leaving you feeling powerless and unable to take control of the situation at all. It comes down to accepting that life is a roller coaster ride of highs and lows. And in order to enjoy the ride, you need to appreciate that life throws us curveballs, some worse than others, but try to push forward without allowing the process to ultimately destroy you. Sometimes when we're dealt an unfair hand, we assume that life is just working against us. However, every experience of adversity is designed to help us become better versions of ourselves. If the loss of a loved one is what you're suffering right now, I know that's harder to see. I will never accept my son dying as a betterment of anything. But what happens is I have become closer to God in this experience. I call it my grief journey. I've become closer to God. I know what life actually means now, more than I ever did before. And I've been able to help others through their hurts and their pains. So when you take responsibility for your life and your circumstances, you are better able to embrace the hard times that life can bring. And we all have them. Okay, so let's go to number 6. Asking for help. This is so hard for a lot of us. When adversity strikes, don't be afraid to ask for help from your colleagues, friends, loved ones, your pastor, your priest. Oftentimes we feel deeply wounded by our heavy blows. Right to the gut. It's easy to feel like we are alone, but trust me, you're not. The fear of looking weak stops many people from reaching out for help. I know that. I've seen it happen. These limiting beliefs are created from years of societal conditioning that teaches us that vulnerability equals weakness. This is far from true. Asking for help is one of the highest measures of strength. So don't be afraid to share your story and express how you feel. Mentorship, group coaching, and whatever you're going through, trust me, it's worth the money. But I will tell you to do your research. You wouldn't take weight loss advice from somebody that weighs 500 pounds. So do your research so you know when you're getting guidance from the right coach, make sure that they understand your experiences, they're educated, and they've been through adversities themselves. Okay? The right coach means everything. Number 7, find purpose in your pain. Okay, Sherry, so how do I do that? Every adversity presents an opportunity for growth. Every single one of them. Think back to some of the most difficult times in your past. What did you learn about yourself, and how did your life change as a result of that experience? Think about that. I will tell you that resilient people always look for opportunities in adversity and hard times. Do you think resilient people actually feel pain deeply? Of course they do. But they don't dwell in that self-loathing victimhood. They recover from the blows of life and find purpose in their pain that allows them to become more for others as well as themselves. This is what I've tried to do. It may seem impossible. Trust me, I know. Seems impossible a lot of times to look for the good when you are in the midst of a negative situation that just seems like is weighing so heavy on you. But a positive attitude of hope. I'm just asking you to have a little hope. This is what will allow you to get back into the game of life a whole lot faster. In the words of Marilyn Monroe, isn't she beautiful, guys? Sometimes things fall apart so that better things can fall together. I love that. Number 8, I want you to create a game plan. If you want to change your life for the better, you need to create a game plan that takes positive action. You create your own reality. Do you believe that? You can either choose to dwell in negativity or rise up and take your life back. I love that. Arise and shine. Don't wait for a better tomorrow. Instead, I want you to plan for a better tomorrow. You guys know that journaling was something that I did for 7 years. If you've ever listened to my story, I journaled for 7 years before my first book, Wake Up Call: A Mother's Grief Journey, was published. 7 years. But I created that plan of healing as I journaled for 7 years. I got everything out on paper. And trust me, there were a lot of times that paper was soaking wet with tears. But I had a plan. I planned for a better tomorrow with every single pen stroke. I'm going to tell you, hard times, I know, can knock you down, but they can keep you down if you allow them to. We always have a choice to transform our pain into possibility and purpose. And I want this so bad for you. Don't be limited by your adversity that you're in. I want you to know your strength and believe that you're capable of doing anything. If you're willing to persist despite the odds that are against you and rise above your circumstances, there is nothing that will stand in your way. You have to create a plan to rise up out of your anger that you're in right now, or if you're in the depression right now, or if you're still in the denial right now. You have to create a plan to rise up. Last but never least, number 9, I want you to adapt a plan of attitude and gratitude. Your attitude of gratitude. What if I told you that a simple change in your attitude could help you overcome adversity of any kind? This is where the power of gratitude comes into play. This is a state of mind that helps us see everything in life as a gift. In the face of difficulty and suffering through adversity, gratitude is what helps us cope and gives us hope. I believe that everything in life happens for a reason, and that negative experiences are designed to serve our higher self and others in some way. It's our job to find out what that is, though. Everything that I have gone through in my life has made me stronger and more resilient to the person that I am today. Some of the biggest breakthroughs that I've experienced in my life happened right after I was able to overcome massive adversity. To this day, when something negative happens, I always ask myself, what can I learn from this? It is your job to find the empowering meaning of every experience that you face, good or bad. I was just challenged recently with a difficult person in my life, and I stuck with them because it financially served me, actually. However, the piece of losing that person was so much greater, so much greater. And no, I'm not talking about my husband. I'm talking about a work relationship. I'm talking about a way that I was financially compensating over a work relationship. But the peace that I have in my life today, by not working with that person and taking that financial cut out of my life, I would rather take the financial cut because I have so much more peace today. When you are in the moment, you don't always see the value of gratitude, but I encourage you to always trust that the events that have happened in your life serve a purpose that is bigger than yourself. Know that God can turn anything that was meant for harm to something much better for you. I truly believe that. Sometimes hard times, though, can force us to hit rock bottom so that we just reflect on our lives and we just stay in that adversity. But sometimes you can lose everything staying there. But the one thing that can never be taken away from you is what you've learned and who you become in the process. There's always a lesson to be learned from every experience. If you believe that life happens for you and not to you, you will freely feel empowered to get through anything that tests your strength. I want us to end with the adversity that comes right now in this candidacy. Somebody is going to lose this election. That's the big dilemma right now, right? I mean, have you ever seen such divide in our nation in our entire life? If you believe the candidates are the cause of the divide, you are missing the mark. It is us as the Americans that have allowed the narrative to divide us. Regardless of who wins, there will be half of the American people, or somewhat close, that will believe this election is a catastrophic event. So how should we respond to the adversity and the uncertainty? How do we process the chaos and the confusion of this pandemic, this election, or even a personal crisis? Does God's word give us relief for the pain and the panic we may be experiencing today? Yes, he certainly does. Psalms 145:18-9. The Lord is near to all who call on him. To all who call on him in truth, he fulfills the desire of those who fear him. He always hears their cry and saves them. Are you ready to overcome challenges and adversity? So what's your plan? What is your plan after this election? So while some people are going to be feeling powerless, you actually have more power than you think. Individually, you can't control who wins this election, but you can control what you do for the rest of the next 4 years. You can control it. You can control to be happy. You can control how hard you're going to work. You can make a difference in life. You can pray for the president, whoever it may be. You can invent something that changes the world. You can even start and build a successful business. You can inspire your students if you're a teacher and just believe in them. You can help heal someone today. You can feed the poor and help the needy. You can raise your children with great values and principles. You can love, serve, and care, regardless of who wins this election. I want you to remember, the president will be in control of running this country, but you and only you are in control of running your life. Your leadership is important, but one person doesn't make America. We all make America. So are you ready to overcome the adversities in your life? You can't just want it. You can't just want it and not have a strategy to get going in your life. So let's get going. Your life is waiting on you, friend. Thank you for tuning in all the way through Real Girl Talk. Make sure you subscribe anywhere you listen to podcasts. And if you happen to have iTunes, would you do me a huge favor and leave us a rating and review of the show? That's the way that we get this message out to more and more people around the world. And selfishly giving us a review and rating, something good is going to come back your way. Plus, I know you're the type of person that wants others to live their best lives. So can you copy this link, share it to your friends, share it on social media? Remember, people need to be inspired. They need to have tips. They need to have business ideas more than ever right now. And I know that you can help me on this mission. Thank you again so much. If you want to be a supporter of the show, go back to realgirltalkpodcast.com, click Be a Supporter. Thank you again from the bottom of my heart for being a part of Real Girl Talk Podcast. And until next week, keep your encouragement tank full, your faith in God, and create your beautiful life.